I figured I'd add a champion level addendum to the beginner's guide of what I wish I knew when I first started Elder Scrolls Online. Leveling up through getting to champion and gear is one of the more difficult things. Killing monsters, sitting at dolmens, waiting for them to drop and then just killing everything and farming them is a great way to get not white gear, as well as completing the dolmen nearby, which is a sky shard and maybe some loot along the way. Equipping anything along the way is useful up until you reach champion 160. Once you reach 160, it should happen quickly. The most difficult time to craft is between champion points 10 and 160. I don't recommend doing it. Waiting until champion point 160, deconstructing everything you find, especially intricate items, and selling ornate items is a great way to get loot and gold, as well as the temper materials. If you find something at green material, you can temper it to purple material. Getting skill points is not difficult, it's more or less tedious. There are a variety of ways to get skill points if you're struggling with getting them. Many quests in a zone will provide a skill point. I think it's like 4 or 5 quests per zone will provide a skill point. Completing the group event for a public dungeon will provide a skill point, as well as every public dungeon has a sky shard. Every delve has a sky shard. 3 sky shards add up to a skill point. It's tedious, but relatively simple. If you're still having troubles getting a 5-5 or a 5-piece medium, 5-piece light, 5-piece heavy, there are plenty of vendors around. The best way I found to get gold is kind of depressing currently, but it is farming mud crabs. Yeah, they drop beetle scuttle, which sell for a nice bit of gold to other players. You can buy stuff from other players. It may cost an exorbitant amount or be cheap, very cheap, at various locations and guild traders. Keeping an eye on these, you might find a very valuable item that is very useful to you for a good cheap amount, or it could cost an arm and a leg. Hit or miss. Don't worry about getting past champion 1 or getting to champion 160. Between 10 and 200 I found is a very fast leveling. You can level up like really fast during that time. Then once you reach champion 160, your gear will be universalized and you will never have to do that for another character again. Any other character you start up will have those champion points as well. Maybe not allocated quite like this character, but they will have the amount of champion points available to them. And the first time you reach champion with any character is when you reach enlightenment. That same time, every 24 hours, your character will receive a free 400,000 experience points that is easy to accrue from killing anything or completing a random dungeon. In order to level up fast, I recommend picking a role, tank or healer, performing that role with either healing abilities or holding the boss still and surviving, or just sticking with DPS and finding a good buddy, and going through dungeons. You can go through 1 random dungeon a day and get premium rewards, which are really nice and useful to level up quickly. And as well as it helps your undaunted. The reason I recommend wearing 1 light, 1 medium, and like 5 heavy if you're a tank, or 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy if you're a... It's at least one of each, is to get the benefit from undaunted metal. As well as it makes it easier to level up later and get the passives should you so choose. And as you're leveling up, I recommend always getting at least your racial passives. The class passives as you're leveling up aren't as vital. Use with the skills, and the skills you are using are more vital. Crafting is a long-term effort. It requires at least 100 skill points. So you cannot do that from leveling a character anymore and getting everything possible in crafting. It will require work. Unless you just need a character to temper your whatever you find, turning your green armor into gold armor. Blacksmithing, clothing, and woodworking are the most useful and simplest to do, because you can do that with random dungeons. Whatever gear you're not going to use, instead of selling it, you can deconstruct it. Deconstructing it will give you resources back and level up whatever you're deconstructing. Like say it's staves, it will level up woodworking. Getting a food buff is, there's holiday events every so often that provide decent food buffs. There's also, if you subscribe to Elder Scrolls Online Plus, you will have access to Rothgar, which drops really nice food recipes if you work on a provisioner. The next place I would recommend getting provisioning recipes from would be the Brass Fortress. There's a guy in Slagtown, provides really awesome food buffs. That's pretty much the end of how to noob and get to end level. It's gonna take time. It's gonna be grindy, and it may take a lot of memorization. Questing is fun, simple, doesn't require memorization, and has a lot of fun lore. You can also fish, which require bait and just fishing in various locations where there's water. The perfect arrow that you can get from the fish is valuable on any platform. There are people that do that. I've heard about a person with 30 master anglers. I mean, wow, I can barely get undaunted. But questing and generally playing the game, the gear is on YouTube, and there are various websites that you can access what gear would be ideal for what you're trying to do in the game. I recommend going to those if you want to min-max or want to get into playing with others. I've given all the information I can for solo gameplay and the information I wish I had when I first started. Thank you.